Now, here's a startling figure. In 1980, a typical chief executive made 40 times more than what an average worker in his company would make. Now, a CEO is likely to make more than 400 times more than the average worker. That is just a staggering shift. It's a moral issue, too. But what's even more surprising is that corporate top dogs seem to reel in those massive paychecks even if they do a lousy job. Sometimes even if they lose their jobs. And Dan Harris sees a sign of the time.
Good stop, Allie.
Go get it.
Being a CEO these days is, according to the people at Forbes magazine, kind of like playing on a kiddie soccer team. Everyone gets a prize, often a very expensive prize.
Supposedly, you get paid for performing in corporate America, but you don't. It is like a fourth-grade soccer league where everyone gets a trophy.
And here's the starting lineup of the soccer team fielded by Forbes, the worst-performing CEOs in America, as measured by comparing pay to stock performance over the last 6 years. Let's start with this guy, James Tobin, CEO of Boston Scientific, who made an average of $8.2 million, while his company's stock inched up by an anemic 1% on average. And then there's Kevin Scherer of Amgen, the biotech company, who made $12.3 million a year, while his stock went down on average by 4%. And here's the team captain, the worst-performing CEO in the country, according to Forbes, Angelo Mozillo of Countrywide, who raked in $66.4 million a year, while his company nearly collapsed, along with the entire U.S. lending market, dropping an average of 9% a year.
If you don't bear personal responsibility, I don't know who does.
I do take full responsibility for anything that happens at Countrywide.
Mozillo is now reportedly under federal investigation for his sale of hundreds of millions of dollars of Countrywide stock, much of it before the company's stock price tanked.
He really has emerged as the poster boy for pay for failure.
And I think the reason is that because he was selling all this stock while his company was buying back stock and using shareholder money to do that, and the fact that he has been making so much money, $102 million a year over the last year, is what people find egregious.
If you are looking to get paid for failure in your own life, be aware that corporate CEOs, like the players on the Forbes soccer team, have some advantages you don't. For example, the ability, according to critics, to stack their boards of advisors who set their pay with their buddies.
It's a very incestuous business. People are on each other's boards. They are hired by the chief executive. They're thankful to be in part of the club.
They can also hire corporate compensation consultants and then fire them if they don't like the pay packages they recommend.
That's what Angelo Mozillo did at Countrywide Financial. His board hired a consultant who had the temerity to say that maybe paying this gentleman $102 million that year was a bit much. So he went out and got himself another consultant, and that consultant, of surprise of surprises, said, you know, I think you should be paying more, and his board listened.
When most of us get fired, we get some severance, and that's it. But when this guy, the former Sprint CEO Gary Forsey, got fired, he got $40 million, an $84,000 a month pension for life, and help landing a new job as a university president.
It sounds like being a CEO is good work if you can get it.
It's great work if you can get it in corporate America.
Now, some in corporate America say that is unfair, that there have been major reforms in recent years, and that most CEOs are fairly compensated.
The outliers are just that, outliers. You have to look at the preponderance of the CEOs and how they're performing and how their pay matches that performance.
And Neil Weinberg, the guy from Forbes, says the examples in his article show that there is a real need for serious changes before CEOs are no longer paid for failure. Most notably, he says, shareholders should be able to vote on who sits on corporate boards, something the SEC recently proposed, but corporate leaders fought tooth and nail to defeat.
It's called shareholder democracy, right? And that's what we need in this country. You know, we have something more akin to Putin in Russia right now than we do to, representative democracy.
Only when there is democracy in corporate America, he says, will this playing field truly be level. For NightLine, this is Dan Harris in New York.